Are you ready? Are you ready? Come on. JD on the track.
Good morning and welcome to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host, David L. Lowry Jr., and the name of the show is Let the Truth Be Told. Folks, I'm glad that everybody's tuning in today, but we got a couple of hot topics to talk about. I got one of my first co-hosts in the studio with me today. What, it's been about 2 years, Earl? Yeah.
It's been almost 2.5 years.
So we got Miss Kim on board with us, and she brought some guests. So in the meantime, in between time, we want to let everybody know, thank you for coming in, and we're going to make sure that this is going to be a live show. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call a friend and let them know you're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host, David L. Lowry Jr., and the name of the show is Let the Truth Be Told. Let the truth be told. It will move your soul. See you in a second. Come on.
Chi-Town. Are you ready? Are you ready? Come on. JD on the track. It's your boy Preacher. Yeah. Come on. Hey, the truth. Hey, the truth.
I'm married to the truth.
I'm married to the truth.
I'm married to the truth.
Yeah, I'm married to the truth.
I'm married to the truth.
Come on.
I'm married to the truth.
And welcome back. You're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host, David L. Lowry Jr., and the show is Let the Truth Be Told. First, I want to give all praises to God and my Lord and Savior Yeshua for making it possible for me to be here. And I want to welcome my first-time listeners and regular listeners, as well as welcome Facebook Live. We're about to get it in. Folks, I want to make an introduction to my right. I got the host with the most, my first host when I first started Intellectual Radio. I got Miss Kim in the house. What's up, Kim?
What's going on, Dave? It's good to be back in the building. See, we have moved to a new studio location, which is really awesome. Congratulations, Earl. And so we true story, right? So when I first started hosting the show with Dave, we were coming in on Saturdays, 11 o'clock?
Was it Saturday?
Was it about 11 o'clock?
Thursdays. Thursdays. See, you've been going a long time.
Whatever day it was, it wasn't whatever time it was after 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And so Dave kept going with the show, which I'm very grateful that you were able to keep it going in my absence. So, it's good to be back. It's good to have a 10 a.m. start time. So I came out today. I'm a little congested, but it's good to be here, and we'll have a great show today.
Kim, you brought two good-looking young ladies with you. Let's talk about them. You introduce them to the people.
So I do want to take some time to introduce a couple of young ladies that I've been working with over the past couple of years. If you've ever tuned into the show before, or if you ever look at any of my Facebook posts, or if you know anything about me, then you know that I'm truly committed to making sure that we have a system in place where we begin to pass the torch to our young people, and offer them the guidance. We can't give everything, but we can definitely give what we have. So I want to introduce a young lady to me. Her name is Kristen Hatley. She's the founder of an organization called Love Myself with CP and ADHD. It is an organization that is determined to bring some parity to access for service for people with disabilities, especially our young adults who are African American living on the south side of Chicago. And to her right is actually her second in command, Jessica Haynes, who, yes, the same last name. So Jessica has been working along with Kristen and trying to get the organization together. And a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about some things that these ladies have been able to do on a shoestring budget, because I think that in the midst of so many youth movements, in the midst of so much attention being paid to stemming the tide of violence, you know, we have to really pay attention to what's being done on the ground to really shore up how we're able to protect and take care of our young people. So they'll be talking about a couple of events that we have coming up a little bit later, and definitely we would really like for you to go on Facebook and like the page. I Love Myself with CP and ADHD, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on with them shortly.
Well, you know, this is the resurrection weekend. We had Johnny on last week, and we talked a little bit about the word Easter and the resurrection.
Right.
You know, I'm still lost for thought on how a bunny rabbit with eggs
Don't start with me,
Earl. got into
Don't start.
with the resurrection of Jesus. You know what I'm saying? What you think about that, Kim?
Oh, you gonna make me? He gonna make me take my jacket off.
I'm trying to get you right now.
Okay, so see, I'm gonna tell you all a secret about when you see people on TV and they're all poised. See, we have arguments and discussions way before we get on air.
Yes.
But and I won't call out any Facebook friends, but I have a couple of Facebook friends, because I like to diversify my portfolio of information that are, you know, sort of on the verge of tackling this. I haven't been able to get a response. Now, as I understand, with respect to organized religion, there's a lot of history and marrying what is supposed to be sacred scripture with pagan, or as we like to call it these days, worldly beliefs, just to really
pagan holidays is exactly
right,
what it is.
Just to placate people, you know. And I think that you know, as we mature, as my generation matures, and definitely we are not really strong in holding that religious torch. The way that our parents were and the way that our grandparents were where, you know, my generation is not as insistent on taking the kids to church or getting the grandkids to church. I think that my generation is a little bit split between just being all out worldly.
And wait a minute, Kim, I'm so glad that you said that, because, you know, back in the day, in my generation, and there's a big difference between the different generation. In my generation, when I was coming up, we had to go to church. There was no negotiating. The only way you didn't go to church was you was bed bound and you couldn't get up. And then mama still made you get up and still drugged you to church. And even though you thought that you weren't listening, the word somehow could get inside your head, even if he was present.
Absolutely.
And as you started to grow, that word would manifest itself. And so you would have some type of restraints just to live totally in the world.
Absolutely. And I think that that part of spirituality and morality is going to be embedded in our culture for many generations to come. You know, I remember, you're right, it wasn't a choice. You know, on Sunday morning, my mother would have my clothes laid out. There were no options. I didn't even have the illusion of an option. I just knew this is what was getting ready to happen on Sunday. You know, we were getting ready to go to church. I don't even remember picking my clothes out up until, you know, I can talk about that. But I think that, you know, since we're on the subject, you know, one of the things, let me ask you this, and you ladies can chime in as well. There was a post on Facebook a few weeks ago, shortly after the premiere of the Black Panther.
Okay.
And it was Trinity Church, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm mistaken, let me know I'm mistaken. But it was at Trinity Church, and they had a whole ensemble of people in the church with full-on Wakanda outfits. They had the
Go ahead, Kim. We got a caller coming in.
They were holding up the
How do we get that? How do we get him on there? Hit on over there. Who's that? John Westmoreland. Hey, John.
Johnny.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Man, good. You know, I got Kim in the studio today.
How you doing, Kim?
Hey, Johnny, I'm surprised you're not here today.
Well, I'm way out in live, so I just gonna go have some lunch. So I told Dave I would have been there, but
okay. Quick comment, John. You know,
so
quick comment.
I want to make a couple of comments on this for this holiday about our prophet Lord and our Savior, if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead on, John. You got the flow.
You know, I tell people they've been sending me stuff through Facebook about some Easter bunny laying an egg and all this crazy stuff. I simply put on there, if anybody send me some stuff like that, I'm going to block them instantly. They don't even know the definition of Easter, man. It's sad.
Tell them what the definition of Easter is, Johnny.
Well, all it is that back in the day, people went in the woods and they prayed to the Eastern Star. To the East Star. They had orgies, drugs, sex, alcohol. They did everything that they weren't supposed to do under the sun.
That's true.
To the East Star. That's where they got Eastern Stars from. That's where they got Easter from.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no egg. When a rabbit lay a damn egg. You're going to church tomorrow. I know people say, oh, they taking their kids an egg hunt. You know, I'm like, that's crazy. You know, I don't go to church on Easter Day because it's a fashion show. It's bad enough church is already a fashion show, but Easter is exceptionally a fashion show. And that's when, you know, a lot of pastors smile because when they say, all visitors stand, you got 20, 30 people in different churches standing. That's more money for them. That's
absolutely.
Well, you know, John, we got. Go ahead, man.
You can't affiliate the resurrection around prophet Lord with an Easter bunny laying an egg. Not only is it disrespectful to Jesus,
that's right.
One of those people being traditional about that, they're going to have to pay a price for that because so many people are being misled. They kind of like saying Easter is a pagan holiday. If you look at it the way they portraying it to be, it's wrong. So anybody that's listening, don't take your kids Easter hunting. If you don't take them to church, minister to them at home, read the Bible, eat some breakfast. I prefer you to watch some basketball games. Doing the wrong thing.
So Johnny, I got one question for you before we let you go. What do you think? And I saw this in an ad in the newspaper last year around Easter holiday. And there was a church that was actually saying, hey, bring your kids to church to get a picture with the Easter bunny and do an Easter egg hunt. and that's where I was going with the whole Black Panther thing. Like at what point, you know, even if I don't personally want to go to a church and be bothered with that, I agree with you, Johnny. There still should be some separation between what's.
I wish I would have seen that. I would have put them on blast so fast. Come to church to take a picture with an Easter bunny.
I didn't set him up.
It's bad enough tomorrow's April Fool's Day.
Oh yeah, we gonna talk about that, Jay. But listen. Thanks for calling in, bro. We gonna get it in a little later on.
All right, y'all take care of yourself.
All right, thanks, Johnny. Bye.
Well, you know, John brought up something.
He opened up that
door.
I saw them down there because I think somebody might have some intimate knowledge about this whole Wakanda in the church thing.
Well, you know, it's go ahead.
Yeah.
Talking
yes, I do because I got to Trinity, and I remember when they was premiering the movie Reverend Moss. I love Reverend Moss. He was like, oh yeah, we're going to the movie, but we gonna do like Coming to America. I'm like, what the heck is going on? He like, remember when the Eddie Murphy
right
and Jill and the guy who was Mufasa on The Lion King,
James Earl Jr.
Yeah. Well, like, when you got to find your wife.
Right.
But remember, all the sisters and brothers
Had the
came
outfits.
out. That's how Trinity did it.
Did it?
And also my mother church, 'cause I went twice to
Mhm.
see it. I went with my godmother, Valerie,
Mhm.
and Jessica. And I also went with my mom. But anyway, when my church went, 'cause I didn't go, it was on Facebook Live, and so you see, it was like Coming to America
I have a
the
question.
second.
I have a
Yes.
question. So how did they explain that to Jesus and God?
Okay, so they did a outline,
Mhm.
and so in this outline, it was talking about the Bible versus Wakanda. It was a Bible study, but like I say, I don't go to Bible study. I know I should, but my work schedule
Mhm.
is another
Okay.
story. But that's to answer Kim question.
Mhm.
It was also mixed up. I don't know if it's a good word to say in
Mhm.
the Bible study.
Okay, thanks,
Also.
Kristen. Thanks.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks. So
I haven't seen the movie yet.
What?
No.
Why?
let
and
me-
no commercial breaks. We want to hear this
The-
story,
Oh, my
Brother
God.
Lowry. Uh-oh.
The reason
Okay, so we
why
get ready to have a Wakanda debate.
the reason why I haven't went to see the movie yet is because it was so publicized that this was the must movie to see.
Right.
And not because of what the contents of the movie was, it was because they wanted to make sure that because the movie had a lot of black people in it, they wanted everybody to go at a certain time so it could take over the #1 box office stop of all times. Okay. And so that's fine.
Okay.
And I think about, and all y'all black folks out there, y'all might y'all might not like what I'm finna say, but I'm gonna let the truth be told.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go, black people. We can't even get together and put money together to ensure that our children have an excellent education
Right.
and we have our own schools instead of waiting for the white man to give us money to keep our schools open. We can't even get together and have our own grocery stores and our own community because we're so disenfranchised with each other. We can't even get together to do nothing positive to save our own community. But yet, a white man can make a movie with black people in it, and the Negroes run to those movies and record numbers, and we spent billions and billions of dollars to go watch a movie that's going to be show black people, which was a good thing, but none of that money is coming back to the black community. So I have a problem with us as not being united enough. Because see, with all the pastors, all these organizations, we got these athletes, we got these actors, those same actors, all of them have never decided that, you know what, black people, we need to be self-sufficient. We need to stop spending our money in everybody's community and letting everybody come into our community getting rich off of us. So my thing is, if we can come together for some BS like that, then we're our own worst enemy, because the reason why kids are killing kids is because they don't know nothing. They haven't been taught nothing. Half of them are uneducated. Most of them need medication. Those are issues we should be looking at. The issues that our black political leaders are not being a force in the community like they used to be. These are real issues that I'm talking about. So for me just to run to the movies to see a movie that a white man made with a bunch of black people in it, It's not just the top thing on my agenda. Kim?
Okay. So
I'm next.
let me get my life together here.
I
Okay,
should've took notes.
it's a couple of things that I want to address.
All right.
And I think that I've had this conversation with a number of people, and I'm not saying that your point of view is not legitimate. I think that as a community, we should become more mindful of how we allocate our resources. But I think there's another thing at play, and it speaks to a larger issue. And it was something I posted earlier with respect to cultural competency, because I think that, you know, we look at cultural competency as how do we interact with white people, and how sensitive is the white man to our issues, and how sensitive.
Not sensitive at all.
But my point is this. It's one way to look at it and say, oh well, this white man or this white person is going to reap all this money. But you know, I think about the number of local artists that I've worked with who have worked hard, blood, sweat, and tears to have that opportunity. I think about the doors that are going to be open for other people in the industry, and I think that for us, as moving into our role as elders, we have to stop being so blindsided and not and to see things for the opportunities that they are. You know, the movie industry, the entertainment industry is huge, and even with respect to that, I look at the reality that it's really easy for us to address these issues and say, oh, well, this is a problem, and this is a problem, and this is a problem. And I think that the number one thing that people talk about is, oh, Black people spend their money here and there. But the reality is that the way that movie was marketed, the way that movie was able to catapult to number one was not by accident. Marketing is a science.
Exactly.
And so I think that when we talk about the issue of why we can't mobilize our people, or why we can't level off and really promote these priorities, you know, something that really sparked my career many years ago was the fact that we don't invest the same type of time and energy into marketing what's good and what's healthy. We don't take cues. You know, Donald Trump won the election because he know how to run a TV show. He took the same formula.
And he's doing the same thing that he did on the show.
Same formula that it took to make The Apprentice number one. He had people to go into those demographics and know what message was important to what people and to what voters. We still trying to get shit done on a chicken plate.
And that's so true, Kim. And that's the point that I was making as well. It shows that I think Malcolm said it best. Black people, we've already been bamboozled. We continue to let ourselves to be put into these trick bags so that we become a profit.
Absolutely.
People make profit off of us.
But I mean, that's how the country was funded. The country is built on Black people being a commodity. I know that Jessica has something to say.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I get your point, but I think for me personally, Black Panther was something that we as a community of Black people needed. It gave that feel for like the youth to have somebody to look up to. So for that, it was more so of, oh, I'm not just going to see another movie. I'm going to see another movie that's full of people that look like me, that is full of a nation that is thriving, and there are people that look like me. And it's uninterrupted. It's like, no, it wasn't another typical, oh, we shooting, we fighting, we in the hood, I'm stealing money, I'm selling dope, I'm doing this. So for me, it was just like, this is something that Black people, children, you know, and adults can look up to. So I was excited about that.
Now, let me say something to you, and that is so true. It really is. And the reason why I think the movie captured a lot of the younger generation is because you guys don't understand that Black people were the first people on the face of this planet. That what they showed was that picture portrayed the fact that the intelligence, the education, the technology, all of that came from Africa. And it's good that you guys were able to see that. That was a positive thing. But when I was coming up, we were taught those things. Our parents told us about the trip from Africa, and Africa was such a great nation, and that everything came from Africa, not the Greeks, not the Italians, not the Chinese, not the Mexicans. None of those people would be in existence if it hadn't been for the black man and woman who was Adam and Eve. And so for your generation, I loved it. But for my generation to see it, we looked at it in a different way because of all the bad things that are happening. Just like you say, it was something that was refreshing. But to get back down to the real nitty gritty, we still face those things right now. And the movie made us feel good and made you guys understand that, you know, the importance of black people and all the contribution black people have made. But then for that moment, that was good. But now, how do we translate what we saw into the community so we can start organizing? And that's the key.
Perfect point. And I think that to that point, Dave, see, what we have to understand is that you're never going to spark a conversation based on differences.
No.
You're only going to spark a conversation based on similarities. So anytime we go into this, my viewpoint supersedes your viewpoint, we really, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to sit back and listen because everybody's going to have a different angle, and it's not to dispel or dispute what your angle is. I think that the role of the elders is to marry what the youth have to offer with some sort of foundation. I remember for me coming up, you know, I didn't come up in an environment where we had open discussions about Black people having political power or historical value. I came up in an environment where I was told, don't go by Evergreen Park because the white people chase you from there. Don't go here, don't go there. No, right? So for me, hip hop, Boogie Down production, wanting to know who are these people that they're talking about. I'm gonna date myself now, but that took me to the card catalog at the library. But I'm just saying, in the point that we have to fine tune the way that we communicate intergenerationally, and I think that that you do see a lot of youth shaming, you know, and to kind of morph on to something else, you know. I know another hot topic.
Let me say this. Let me say this to my young people, you know, and I apologize for my generation, and I did a speech last Saturday about what happened with us.
Oh yeah.
See, what y'all young people don't understand, that there was a structure that was given to us from our seniors who put us in a position to understand what was really going on in the Black community and how to address those things that was happening to us so that we could get through. Now, my generation was the first technical generation to be free. Because see, my mother and them were slaves. They worked on a plantation. They chopped and they picked cotton. They worked for $1 a day. I mean, they lived without bathrooms. They lived totally primitive. So my generation was, I'm gonna get you right to you in just a second. My generation was the free generation that were allowed to go to the colleges, that were allowed to get some of the good jobs, that were allowed to buy the big house, that were allowed to get the nice car. My generation was the first free generation. And what we didn't do, and the reason why I'm apologizing is this, is because we didn't keep the structure that we were taught to make us successful. As the generations went on, they got less and less more involved with society. They got less and less more involved with political things. They got less and less more involved with governmental things. They got less and less to understand what a real family was. A husband and a wife, children, everybody contributing. The whole Black family structure disappeared.
And I wanna speak.
That's what I'm apologizing for, because we did not continue to put things into our young people and keep fighting for you guys so that you would not, so that you would be clear and you would understand where we came from and where we're trying to go.
And let me just and I see you. Let me just say this too. I think that you're absolutely right. You know, one of the things that I would talk about when I talked about drug prevention was that in the clinics that I've worked where we do treatment, you don't see young people coming into treatment. You see people who are in their late 50s through 70s. And I think that even when you talk about your generation and your commitment to really the first generation that really had a stake in the material aspects of the American dream.
Exactly.
And see, what happens is this. One of the biggest lies we were ever sold was get out the hood.
Yep.
So your generation was educated, but your life was based on fear. You didn't want to rock no waves. You didn't want you were told that people fought for this and died for you to be able to do these things. And so people were afraid to step outside of the box. So when you integrate, whether you're integrating into an industry or whether you're integrating into a community, nobody wants to rock any boats. And so whenever you have that, it's not just your generation. I think that it's just a symptom of what is lost within generations. We pass down fear. We don't pass down boldness.
Exactly.
We pass down fear. And so as young people come into their own and they want to test the waters and they start to see things that make no sense. Mm-hmm. There's no one there to back them up because they're saying, you better go and get from around here now, Mr. You don't be bothering nobody. You just go and do your work and you don't do nothing. You don't rock the boat.
Well,
and that is that. We live in a society
that came from the white man. That came from the white man.
But that is what we pass.
Right.
You understand? Right. That is what we pass. And
see, let me say something too. And a lot of people say, I talk about our educated brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones, the generations after us, who was really had a chance to make a huge impact in the Black community. But once they went to that white man's school and got that white man's education, the white man told them, you are so much better than those where you came from, and that you need to not go back to your neighborhood and reach back and go to a school and talk to these young brothers and sisters about the things that you can do in the doors that was open.
Or even just be there and live. I think that at any turn, people get sick of somebody coming in and telling them how they're supposed to live and what they're supposed to do, as if the average individual is not already doing the best that they can do given their circumstances. I think this idea that there is a certain standard to being human.
Well, that's all.
And I don't mean,
that's all. That's all. Let me say, then we're going to get.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Let me say this. See, when you think differently,
you act differently.
Absolutely.
And so that's how the white man has been the master of manipulation. Right. Is that those educated Negroes, they told them, you need to get away from the hood and separate yourself from the people because you ain't like them.
Right.
You can come out here and live with us, but if you make us mad, we're going to burn a cross in your yard.
Right.
So the idea of it was abandon your community.
Absolutely.
And you go, don't bring nothing back. And so the upcoming generations who do not see the positiveness. See, they took all the jobs out the Black community, so the Black people would start to turn on each other and steal from each other and hate each other because of the economic drought. Okay? Yes. So then when you get that, and now our children who we fought so hard to get an education, they left and they don't come back home because they've been taught that way.
Right.
And so the children who didn't go to college, the ones who couldn't got out of high school, who might not have had the capacity, that needed a job, they took the economics out the community. So now these children who might not go to college is going to be left doing what they're doing now, trying to figure out how can I economically take care of my family because I'm not little Ray and Pookie no more.
Right.
I'm becoming a man. I'm becoming a woman. But if I haven't been taught on how to be a man, you can't be no man. If I have not been taught on the values of a woman and being a woman of stature, being a woman with ethical thinking, those type of things was taken out of our community and we allowed it. And that's why you see the killings. That's why you see the hatred. That's why you see a man walking around with the disrespect with his pants hanging down. And then you throw a House Negro president like Obama into the mix that said it was okay and made the law to be gay. And boy, our community is in shambles.
And while she takes her comment, I see that there's something on the live.
I didn't even get to get carried away.
I got a lot to say today.
Go.
Kristen will go, and then I'll say a few things. So go ahead, Kristen.
You open my eyes. I got couple things to say. One thing that I want to say. My mom, who's an accountant. Hi, Mommy. Albert.
Live with me, Donna.
Hi, Mommy.
Go ahead, girl. Say your.
Anyway, my mom, I love. She always was like, go behind me. Okay? My grandma didn't go to college. My grandfather didn't go to college. My mother did. My mother is an accountant.
Okay.
A CPA. At the 45. The IRS, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, my mom always say, yeah, I wish I went to this college, but hey, like her best friend Valerie say, we went to a wonderful college. And my mom was like, yeah, but the next generation, my kids need to go be more and more like more than me.
Right. So I understand what you're saying. And that's how it was. Because my generation, my parents, my father had a 3rd grade education. My mother went to high school. So she was considered in her day a very educated woman. She went to the 11th grade. Their whole ideology of us as their children who did see the tail end of the hatred of the Klan and we knew very distinctively about Emmett Till, who was killed in Mississippi for whistling at a white woman. Right. You know, they taught us all those things and how to deal with this society. And so they put their lives on the line with the dogs, the fire hoses, them being killed and lynched and mistreated. They put their lives on the line for my generation to go to college and get an education, something that cannot be taken away from you. And they also did this. They activated mother wits in us. And let me explain what that means, young folks.
Yes, explain it.
Yes.
Mother wits is called common sense in your day.
Okay.
A lot of our young people have common sense, but they don't know how to use it. And so when you lack the common sense to know the basic things, then you can be easily led by anybody that would tell you anything.
Now, I got something with that. I think that you know, and I say this because I'm a young people that has really made a living off of nothing but common sense.
And that's how
I ain't that young no more, but you know, I meet so many people who are geniuses in their own right. And I'll be honest with you, I think that you know, I think that we really have come into a place where we as the elders are now subconsciously perpetrating the same fraud on the generations behind us. And it's almost like trying to sell a VHS tape to a Blu-ray society. You know, first we talked about that social media don't give you no social skills. Well, guess what? We live in a digital world.
We do.
Where people live and breathe and communicate via social media. So we can't continue to not acknowledge that that's a valid way of communicating. Let me add something about that. And that's true. The social media thing is I don't want to get off on a tangent. But no, I'm not going to go on a tangent. But I'm going to say this to people that are so in tune. Some people are so hooked to social media. This is what I'm saying. Don't just be hooked on social media. Get hooked on how to write
programs. Get hooked on how to create opportunities on social media besides talking about your guns and your drawers hanging down and you got all this. Use it for a good tool.
That goes back to how are we communicating? Where's the common language?
Common
right?
sense.
And I mean, because I mean that to kind of just touch on that. I mean that, yeah, you may look on the internet, and I'm not a fan of violent posts or just ratchetness.
Right.
But, you know, when it comes to some things, you know, I recognize that even though a person may portray an image here, that the same way we accept that Arnold Schwarzenegger does not blow up buildings, or that these other people who are entertainers, we accept that they can have a different life. But when we see our entertainers, we readily attribute whatever it is that they're selling. And so my grander point is that we acknowledge these things, but we do not acknowledge that these things are reality. And that's what I mean by cultural competency. I can't sit with this person in an attempt to help them. I can't pour into them if I don't acknowledge where they are and the value of where they are and the value of where they are. So I can't say, oh, well, you know what? You can't talk to me until you pull your pants up. Oh, you know what? You can't talk to me until you can come at me with the King's English.
Well, that was the whole misconception of the pulling the pants up. And we got to get to Jessica. She's on pants. But let me say this. Let me say this. Common sense. If your common sense is activated, it's going to tell you that I must be looking like a damn fool to have my pants down and my underwear showing, and I got to wait a minute. This is why I'm saying common sense is lacked. To know that if I'm looking like a fool doing this and ain't doing nothing positive, common sense ought to tell you, maybe I need to look at the mirror and look at myself. Maybe I need to have an idea. But what Kim is saying, I do meet a lot of brothers at the gate where they at. I meet a lot of young men that have come into my life across my path, that their idea was that this is cool. I want to do this and that. But after I sat with them and I told them the true meaning, and then I was able to help them understand who they were. You are a powerful force. You are a black man. You're the first. When they understood that, guess what? The knowledge was king. I activated their common sense, and they quit wearing their pants down around their butts. And that's what I'm saying. We as elders now have to activate common sense in our young people, because it's not activated. But I don't blame you, because if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And so that's the fault that I have with my generation, is we didn't continue to fight to pass these things down to our young people, so they didn't get caught up with the white man thinking, well, you got to leave your neighborhood. They didn't get caught. Understand what I'm saying? It was our fault that this mess is like this. And that's why with my foundation, the Living and Driving My Black Nation, that's why I teach, I mentor. Because if you think differently, you act differently.
Amen.
Knowledge is king. Go ahead, Jesse.
To your point, I do agree with that. And like you said, a mentor is needed. So for those people who don't have people at home or in their community to give them that support they need, like, hey, don't wear your pants down. You know, you can't have this and this and that for your email address, or don't go to an interview with jeans on and a white shirt that's dirty. Like, they don't have that. So yes, to your point, I understand, because I mentor too, so I understand that. But if they don't have it, then how can they gain that knowledge if there's no one there and that's all they know in that neighborhood?
And
so
it's a good question. Let me tell you how that happens. There's always somebody that's in the room that you can reach out to if you decide to communicate with them. Just like, now check this out. You're here because of who?
Kim.
That's my point.
But everyone doesn't have a Kim,
right?
Or a someone.
But you have to at some point see, and that's why I say we got to take our communities back, because when you go into when you talking about going into the schools and teaching knowledge, our young people need to understand all of that. And as long as we allow white folks to pick our curriculum and to come in and teach our kids, then it's hard for you guys to have somebody to walk to, because they teach separation.
And, you know, I think that's a really good segue, because we are winding down.
Oh,
Earl has given us the 5-finger discount. on how much time we have left. So I think that that's a perfect segue into really getting into to the last of this segment and to talk about why these ladies are actually here.
Yes. Now we're gonna let Kim bring these young ladies and why they're here. Go ahead, Kim. Do your thing.
Okay, so I'm doing the thing. I'm doing it. So I wanted to give them an opportunity because, of course, there's an event coming up on April the 14th. It's going to be at the Carter G. Woodson Library. That actually you'll be able to come and see the two of us live and in action.
Yes.
Dave is going to be hosting an informational seminar on Medicaid and Medicare because I think that we definitely need to start making sure that we begin to manage our health. Physically and mentally. And I wanted to give a chance to have the two of them just talk a little bit about I Love Myself with CP and ADHD organization. Kristen definitely has a compelling backstory. We'll have to bring her on another time.
Yeah, we'll
so that she can kind of give you a little bit more of what it is that she is trying to accomplish and how she got here. But if you guys want to take a couple of seconds, Kristen, do you want to kind of just share a little bit about what is the vision for I Love Myself with CP and ADHD?
Sure. Our vision is to provide different kind of services for people with disability and their caregivers, especially on the south side of Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know Kristen has been really fortunate to grow up, as Jessica kind of alluded to where she's really been put in a position to really take advantage of services that were offered, through the community, as well as having access to services that were not offered, and her experiences and having to leave the South Side to go far north to take advantage. And she's very strong about, making sure that
this is exactly what I'm talking about. About our young people, man, to have you guys in the studio today and you're doing something positive in the community. You're sitting here saying, we're going to address an issue that a lot of people might not even want to talk about.
Right.
They don't want to address the issue. So I'm pleased and honored to have you in the studio today to talk about these things. Jessica, you want to say something?
So I've been working with Kristen since the beginning of the project, and I'm just really excited for her vision to start to come to fruition. She is really passionate about helping people who are disabled on the South Side, and I feel like there are not a lot of opportunities for people who are disabled on the South Side. So I'm really excited to work with her and get all the programs and ideas excited.
That's very cool.
And I'm really excited because in my line of work, we find that a lot of people are not even aware of their disabilities, and
they're in denial.
Well, I mean, some people just don't have access to the wrap up. So we'll continue this on Facebook Live after we get out of the studio.
And not only that, too, give me your last words, Kim, so we can get out of here. Last words. Okay.
Bye.
And we go back next week. Holler at me. You're listening to IntellectualRadio.com. I'm your host.